And he's not done. There's still a lot of things left that God wants me to do. And as long as God gives me the breath, the strength, and the determination, I'm going to do it. It's just that simple. There's a verse, I can't remember if it's in Ephesians or Galatians. It says, "Do not grow weary in doing good. You will reap your reward in due season." Without a doubt, whatever reward God has for me, I will receive what God wants me to receive. Because God's time is not my time. God has a time system that no one understands. I could sit back and sulk and complain, why did God put me in prison for 42 years? Why did I sit in the cell for 42 years? It's like a cake. You put it in the oven, the cake's in the oven, you don't want nobody running around, you don't want nobody jumping, because the cake has to cook, has to get done. And every now and then you'll go in and stick a toothpick in it, you'll pull the toothpick out, you'll see that it's still not quite done. And God knew that I wasn't a done cake. That's why he kept me in prison all day. He knows when you're done. He knows when the time is right to take me out of that oven. So that's what he did. He kept me in that oven. And he kept working on it and working on it. And I kept working on it. Because the key is self-investment. You have to invest in who you are to be better than you were. I could never be who I am on my own. I had to turn to God. And my journey to God wasn't always a clear path. A lot of people don't know, but when I went to prison at 16, I became a Muslim. Right? And then my walk as a Muslim, I sort of excelled. I was what they call the emir of security. I was in charge. The imam and the first emir were the only two people over me in Islam, in that Islamic community. But in 1978, I had an appeal that was turned down. And everything in me sent me backwards. Sent me back to the W that I was when I came here. And I said to myself, God's not going to send me backwards. Because when you have problems in life, you should be running toward God, not away from God. Because God is what your life rafter is in those moments. I was running away from God. And I said, this is not my religion. This can't be the religion for me. And that's when I turned my life around and went back to my original roots, which was Christianity. I was raised in the church. My Uncle Luke was a pastor. My Uncle Larry's a pastor. My cousin Tony, everyone I know. My cousin Gaither, he's a pastor. Everyone was pastors. The word was something that we learned early on. Now, granted, 16, you don't really understand. Now as a mature adult, I have an understanding of what God's word is that I didn't have before. It's because of the relationship that I built with God along the way. Because there has been times when I really sat back and I cried and I wondered, what am I going to do? The Pennsylvania Board of Pardons was telling me no. And I've done everything in the prison system that you can do. From helping to save lives to helping to mold men. I did everything in the prison system. Yet I couldn't get a public hearing from the Board of Pardons. After being recommended to the governor in 92. But after Randall McFadden, all the doors shut. One thing that society as a whole should never do is take away man's hope. Because that's all they have inside of prison is hope. And when you diminish hope, you have like we had in Camp Hill in '89, the riots. Those things happen because you strip people of hope. God gave everyone hope. That's one of the greatest things God does is have mercy on everyone. Because if we got what we deserve, I would be 6 foot under instead of standing here talking to you. It is by God's grace that I am here. It is His mercy, His compassion that has me standing here talking to you. It's not me. So when I look at the way the prison system works, and I know a lot of people deserve to be in prison. I know a lot of people have done some things that are unthinkable. But even in those moments, God finds a way to show mercy. Even in those moments. But, I had a unit manager once tell me, I knew he didn't know what he was talking about, so he told me. He said, you killed someone, you don't deserve to go home. That's why Moses didn't make the promise. I looked at him and I said, really? You don't know what you're talking about. And he was too arrogant to understand what it was that kept Moses out of the promised land. God used Moses in spite of his homicide. In spite of the life that he took, God used him to free the Israelites, to bring the children of Israel to the brink of the promised land. So, and we can look at all the fallacies of man, because there are numerous. Look at Paul. Who would have thought that Saul, of all people, would become Paul? He persecuted Christians. He sought to kill Christians. God used him. You open your Bible, you read Corinthians, you read Ephesians, you read Galatians, you read 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. You're reading Paul. You're reading the books that Paul wrote. God used him to do the things that needed to be done. God's using me. I don't have a problem with it. God uses his people to do those things. And that's where we have to get at. We have to get to a point where we can say, this guy made a mistake. But I believe that he could do better. I believe that there is something he could do to help the situation. Because at the end of the day, we're on this planet together. And whether I die in prison or die out here, it's a life lost. But I can serve a better purpose to help people from here than I could in prison. Don't get me wrong, I helped a lot of people in prison. That, again, I say, everyone knows when God gives them a calling. And like I said, I can talk. And I get guys, and I talk to them, bro, you can't be doing that, man. That's not going to make it. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. And try to help people along the way. God uses us. If you look through the Bible, how many people that had not sinned that God used? He used flawed people. And everyone is flawed. And I'll close with this. The guy told me there was a well-known speaker, and he stood up in front of an audience, and he pulled a $20 bill out. He crumbled it up and threw it on the floor, swished it around into his shoe. And he picked it back up and he said, who in here wants this $20 bill? And everyone raised their hand. So he crumbled it up again, he threw it down, he spit on it, swished it around under his foot. He picked it up again. And he asked the same question. And everyone's hand was raised. The moral of that story was no matter what you go through in life, no matter what it is, your life has value. Every life has value. Something I didn't understand as a child, but I do as a man. Every life, not that life or that, every life. And that's why I get sort of upset when I see on the news that this guy killed a cop. He gets the death penalty automatically. Kills this person, he gets nothing. He gets 5 to 10. What's the difference? A life is a life. Every life has value and is the same value. There's no greater value for a police officer, a judge, or your life means just as much as theirs. We have to come to an understanding that every life has value. Not some, but all. Thank you for your time and your attention. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Were you able to use the prison ministry while you were in prison? Were you what was the prison ministry for you when you were in? Was there a good prison ministry?
But
available?
prison, there's always ministry in prison. That's one place you can always find something to do with God. Now there was another Lutheran pastor, Pastor Adams. He used to come into the prison and they taught a class called Walking Your Faith. I was one of the facilitators of Walking Your Faith, but it took people like Pastor Adams and Chaplain Zeitz to get me involved. Inside the prison, I was a president of inmate organizations. I did all the other things, but I wasn't teaching the classes of faith. And I think that was something that was important and critical in where I am. Is understanding God's word and being able to share it with other people.
I have a question. How long were you in prison before you got caught? How many years?
I say maybe 15, 16. But I began to turn my life around early on in my incarceration. But I didn't really feel the tug or the desire to do the things that I do now. So it was like 15, 16 years old. But it was there early on too. But I was teaching a class called Construction Cluster in 1976. And I went to Camp Hill in 76. I started teaching construction cluster in 76. I was a student teacher, and God, he was already planting the seeds. I didn't recognize it, but he was doing it, So like this, one of the courses, Apollos planted our water, I planted Apollos water, God caused the increase, Sometimes you don't see it, but it's happening. And I think that's what happened.
You talked about the story of adversity. Is that in the book? And who's the author? And can you buy the book?
No, it wasn't in a book. It was just a little. In fact, my wife sent it to me. I was in the RHU. For those of you who don't know, the RHU is restricted housing in prison. That's where they send you when you receive a misconduct. And she sent it to me, and it lifted me because my confidence was down, but it lifted me up.
It's a powerful story. That's what I was wondering where you found it at.
Now, I put some tweaks to it as things go along. As I learned and understood more. Yeah. I was like paper mache and just putting different pieces.
If I share it some Sunday, I'll give you credit.
Enjoy it. It's not mine. Everything God puts here is for all of us to share.
You talked about having a chaotic mind as a youth, and obviously you have matured quite a bit since then, which happens in those 42 years. Do you know for yourself, was there a time when you can say, my mind has calmed? That there was a switch in you? Was there something that specifically happened or a practice that you did that helped you through that process, or was it just something about growing up and your brain developing? As we get to age 25 or 26, they say we get to a place where our brains are fully developed. And
I think one of the hardest things to do, particularly in prison, is to be your own man. There's so many peers around you. Like I said, I was from a gang. Growing up, I was from a gang. And in prison, all of my friends that I knew as a child were there. They weren't doing life, of course, but they were in and out of the prison system. And I had to make a conscious decision Do I want that? Or do I want something better? You know, it's funny because a lot of people look at what I've done, 42 years, and it's difficult. But I know people that have done 42 years on what I call an installment plan. They come in for a year, they go out, they come back for 5 years. When they go out, they come back with 10 years, 15, 20. I knew a guy, he's at SEI Huntington now. He went home in 1979. He had a big smile, and he was sort of ridiculing guys and making fun of them. He went home for less than a year, came back with life. I mean, it doesn't take but one poor decision to cost you your life. But I don't want the worst 10 seconds of my life to define who I am. You know, I can't change what happened in 1975. I can't go back and say, you know what, I'm going to restore his life. God is the only one that can restore life. But I can, every single day, try to make a difference in someone else's life. Every day. And for me, how many people heard of Michael Jackson? Everyone's heard of Michael Jackson. Well, he had a song called Man in the Mirror. And that song pretty much speaks to what it's like. You know, he says, I'm talking to the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. Take a look at yourself and make a change. Because no one else can change you. You have to want to change. You have to dig inside of yourself and say, you know what? I'm done. I had enough of this. You know, it's like an addiction. People who have drug addictions. No one can get them off of the drug but them. I don't care how much treatment you give them. I don't care any of that. None of that stuff works. They have to come to the conclusion that they want better. Every man has to make that choice that's in prison. I want better. I want my life to mean something. I want my life to have some value. I want to be able to help some child, someone be better for it, not worse. So every day is about making life better. It's about doing things to help other people. Any other questions?
Yes. I was just wondering, what group do you speak to?
Well, I speak to children up at the Y in Elizabethville, because I live in Millersburg. So I go out to the Y and I talk to the children there. And that's a little tough because some of the kids are like 6. You know, and I'm trying to modulate my vocabulary. You know, it's not really easy. You know, and their attention span isn't the greatest at that age. And there's some kids here in Harrisburg that I talked to about a month ago. I came down and I talked to some kids here in Harrisburg. But I'm trying to reach as many kids as I can. You know, my story, while it's a powerful story, I don't want their story to be the same story. You know, I don't want people to have to pick up the next edition of Doug Hollis with another name. I want people to, you know, be able to say, this child turned his life around. And if I could help in some small way, I'm good with that. But at the end of the day, it's just about helping children.
Did you assume that you were going to be in for life? And how did you cope with that? Or did you always think, oh, someday
Well,
I'll be out? Or...
and there were moments when, as I said, that life sentence was overwhelming. It was like the big gorilla in the room, you know, and there were times when I didn't know if I was going to make it through the night or the next day because of how overbearing it was to have that life sentence. In 2015, I was in front of the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons. I had departmental support, which is the Department of Corrections. I had institutional support, which is my housing institution. I had a group called Penfrenor, you know, but it's a group of doctors and psychologists out of Philadelphia that helps Inmates draft their commutations and do their aftercare plans and all of those things. They work, and I had everything laid out. And the Board of Pardons said no. This was August 27th of 2015, they said no. Now, bear in mind, August 27th of 1992, I was recommended to Governor Casey for commute. But unfortunately, things didn't work out. So here we were in 2015, and the board saying no, and in my mind, but my heart is saying, no, you're not going to be here the rest of your life. And she was distraught. My wife, she cried, because there was another lifer who they gave a public hearing to. He was at Monroy with me. And it's ironic. He had just gone to the hole for stealing from work. And he was recommended. In fact, he went all the way to Governor Wolf. Governor Wolf signed his commute. But, and she was distraught, crying. And I told her those three verses that I spoke about early on. I look to the hills from whence come my help. Psalms 121, Psalms 146. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, whom there is no help. And finally, Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Because she was distraught. And I'm telling her, no, our trust does not belong to man. It belongs to God. And God has a plan. At the time, I didn't know it. I'm just believing, that blind faith. I'm trusting that the Lord has a better plan for my life. And He is going to work it out. And He did. Because in January of 2016, the Supreme Court said Miller versus Alabama is retroactive. In 2010 or 2012, they said it was unconstitutional to give a juvenile life without parole as a mandatory. Not that you couldn't give it to him, but you couldn't give it to him as a mandatory. And that's all Pennsylvania has, is mandatory life sentences. So the state Supreme Court said it doesn't apply to you. If it did, I would have been home in 2013. But the state Supreme Court said it doesn't apply to you. No. You don't get relief under this. And it took the re-intervention or the re-entering of this U.S. Supreme Court, where they took a case called Montgomery versus Louisiana and said it does apply to him and every other juvenile that was arrested prior to our ruling in Miller. So, hence in March of 2017, Pennsylvania Board of Probation and Parole granted me parole. And I'm here today as a result. And it, again, it's because of God, not me. If it was just about me, I'd still be in prison. It's because of God. It was the hand of God that guided the hearts and the minds of those members of the Supreme Court. It wasn't me. If it was me, they'd still been saying no. But you can't say no to God. It's like the woman in Luke. She's always going to the judge complaining about how, her people are treating her. They're not giving her this, not doing that. And the judge finally said, you know what? I'm going to grant her plea. Little did he know it wasn't him, it was God. But, sometimes we have to trust. And that was what got me through. Trust.
Don, can you spend just a few minutes talking about the relationships that have helped you after you've been released? So now you're back in Millersburg.
Yeah.
Well,